Hello, folks. Yeah, it's me after a little while. I think there's been a little bit of delay after my inaugural episode of Becca Underground. I'm coming back to you with a sense of nameless dread and anxiety. I don't know why. I think partially because I haven't made these videos in a little while. And partially school starting again, kids, COVID, all that sort of stuff. There's the crap that we're all going through. And then just the general malaise and paradox of my existence that is just feeling pretty futile these days. I don't know why. So, anyways, but I'm back for a little bit, and I hope to keep making these things. So, I thought for today, by request of one of my friends as well, I was gonna make a video about the bad old days. So this is a little bit of a historical perspective. Had you listened to my podcast with David J. McNeil, you would have heard me make reference to trying all this out in the 90s. So I would have been about 20 or so. And how I eventually gave that up, I just kind of stopped doing it. I'd identified as a crossdresser at the time. It was like it was sort of the quickest, easiest compromise available to me. And I think a lot of trans women take it. Some people are content stopping there. But I just found that I always ended up back in the closet, right? You would tell your friends eventually as I slowly came out of the closet that first time. And everybody would just kind of forget. And I was like, but this is really important to me. And it's not informing my existence. It's like it just kind of goes back down again. And life carries on as usual. And you're like, well, what the hell's different? So I would eventually, when I was in Ottawa, I would eventually find myself going to support groups. It's usually about a once a month thing at a bed and breakfast downtown. And I would hang out generally with gender trans type people that were about at least 10 years older than I was. And it was all very clandestine. We would go to someone's apartment and change there where somebody didn't have kids or other supervising entities. And we'd make our way to the event. And then I would make my way back home where I was living with my parents. And I sometimes had to sneak in like at 1 a.m. or something. Or I remember going to a public park in the dark and then just taking off all my feminine clothing and then putting back my male stuff on and hoping nobody was going to wander by. I wonder who this weirdo was changing their total outsides just so I could kind of come in back home. So what a weird closeted time. Anyways, yeah. So the bad old days. So there I was, having nursed this side of myself all by my lonesome for my entire childhood and early teens. And there I was somewhere, I think my late teens. I found myself with my first real relationship, person I've been going out with for a little while. And the woman in me was building up. And I knew trans people were a thing. I knew crossdressers were a thing. And I was like, okay, I think I'm a crossdresser. And I can't stand being alone anymore. And I don't know what to do. But I soon found myself in possession of a book called My Husband Wears My Clothes by Peggy Rudd. And I was technically reading it. I don't remember a damn thing about it. But I knew the fact that I was reading it meant I think I'm gearing up to tell somebody. And so flash forward to my girlfriend, a rocky relationship, an unhealthy relationship. It was often on the rocks. Usually it's about every 3 weeks. I was bracing myself for her to go, I think we should break up. She hated herself, and so she didn't like me much better. Anyway, so she was on the verge of going back home in between school. And once again, our relationship was in question, and there we were alone in a room in the dark. And I said, I guess it sounds like we're breaking up, but I was getting ready to tell you something big about me. And her curiosity was piqued, so I was buying myself time a little bit, and I made her guess. So the very first thing she guessed was, did I murder somebody? So heavy must I have seen in the dark, I guess, but whoa, way to suspect the worst of me there. So I said, no, I did not murder anybody. Then her second guess was, are you gay? And then I was like, well, no, at least I didn't understand queerness or whatever. And the promise of cross-dressing was that you could still pretend you're a straight male. It's a weird compromise. I don't get it anymore. But I said no, but some people might think that. And then on the third time's a charm, it kind of came out with a kind of a clinical sharpness. Are you a transvestite? And she nailed it, as I understood it at the time. And I just kind of like slowly nodded in the dark. And I kind of collapsed a little bit. I think I was worried about being misinterpreted, or that, I really needed to communicate just how big this was, her being the first person I'd ever told. So I leaned into it, and I kind of performed a bit of sobbing, I think, just in case it was going to go south. I just couldn't afford for it to go south. And so I got all meta in my head about, conveying the gravity, which was tremendous. But she received it well enough. It saved our relationship for an indefinite period. And I felt tremendous relief. I felt some shame nonetheless, because shame is all rolled up when you grow up with transphobia in the media every day and everything. So you buy into that same negativity that the world is selling to you. Anyways, but there was my first person told. And unfortunately, she went away for the summer. So was it a stunt or whatnot? I don't know, but it sustained us for the months apart. It was in the early 90s, so we hand wrote letters to each other and things. And then I just daydreamed about, oh my God, can I finally present female sometimes? And I had to wait for her to come back and shop with me to help me buy clothes, because, oh boy, that was such a fraught process. Which we only ever did that, I think twice. It was kind of a painful process where I was all mute and couldn't convey anyways. But yeah, that wasn't the greatest. But anyways, I thought I would show some photos. So these are drugstore prints that I have kept through the decades. These are at least 25 years old. And I used to, just like a good crossdresser, I'd set up my camera somewhere at a distance and just guesstimate, and then usually try to go for full-length shots. This is a cross-dressing thing too. We have to see our shoes or whatever, but yeah, so try to get over the 70s basement setting, because that was all part of it. Anyways, so we got behold, we got photo number 1. So I will probably keep it up on screen for a little bit. But I know I look kind of bleak and unhappy. I look a bit like Peter Steele from Typo Negative, R.A.P. There I was with my heavy metal locks, and just looking. I could never smile in photos. That's a whole other story, but just kind of looking impassive, because I am anticipating the drugstore printmaker who's just looking at me going, who's this freak? So I just go, nope, I am doing this. And that's that. But anyways, so there I was with my first ever dress with a little floral print and my leather jacket that I wore throughout most of high school. Didn't know what to do with my hands. And just wearing Doc Martens. And voila, I let her rip. So what a lonely time. What a lonely, lonely time. Basically, my girlfriend knew. and maybe the person making the drugstore prints. So this was my community, my girlfriend, and some pictures. So welcome to the 90s crossdresser scene. I would eventually come out to my friends gradually, step by step. I would kind of like choose my moment when I had them alone. I would preface it with like a kind of, you cannot be my friend. If you don't want to be my friend anymore, it's up to you. This is a thing about me. These were all friends that just were like, well, that's okay. This doesn't change anything. A few people were a little disturbed and I could see their faces go dark, but that was usually the less close they were, the more they were free to be a bit weirded out by it. But my closest friends, including, unfortunately, somebody who would later become one of my TERFs, were cool with it. And the relief and the sense of coming out became infectious, and I needed to tell more people, kind of like what I've been doing now that I'm admitting I'm just fully trans, and I wish cross-dressing wasn't a thing. Yeah, I thought I thought I was doing all my coming out back then, and so I gradually told some people. I thought the shame was lifting, but oh boy, it didn't really lift much more. But anyways, let's take another. So here's a little bit of a close-up in my 70s basement bedroom at the time. Note the Iron Maiden banners and such. Again, once an impassive expression. I think I'm doing something with my hair by tying it back or something. All this makeup and so on, I was all just doing myself. I had a VHS tape that I ordered from Take a Walk on the Wild Side in Toronto, which is just like a drag queen tutorial. I pretty much didn't use any of that. I didn't know how to do eyes and whatever else, but I did what I could with my Shoppers Drug Mart purchases and so on. I still remember the smell of that makeup. And there was a phase where I would be putting on makeup in the mirror alone, and feeling horrible and feeling like a freak. And then by the time I was kind of completing whatever look I was managing, it's like, okay, I feel all right. I don't feel like a monster. But it was never that satisfying either. I would just kind of take it off at the end of the night and go, well, this was not that great. So, and I would eventually go to my support group and come back home and look at myself and go, oh, I thought I looked much different the whole night. Like, this is what I looked like. So there was just all sorts of dissatisfaction that piled up on top of itself. So, anyways, more of this was like my other second dress, I think. Susie Shear. Does Susie Shear still exist? Maybe perhaps recently. Anyways, this was another trope, or not a trope, but a reality of my existence as I came out to a girlfriend and then eventually a couple of others. They would trash my wardrobe. So that was their way of helping. It was a kind of like a harsh fashion advice, perhaps. They'd go, oh my God, these dresses are terrible. Which really sucked to hear that over and over again. Well, not over. Well, I didn't have that many girlfriends, but and they didn't really follow through with actually helping me get better ones that were more according to their good taste. So I was like, thanks for trashing my wardrobe, but this was what I could buy on my own when I'd steal my courage back in the early 90s and just kind of go, I'm getting this thing, and I might ask the clerk, go, what's your refund policy? As if I was buying a gift or something. Who gives a shit now? But so to have accumulated some of these things and then just get somebody to shit on it. Not the greatest, but anyways. Yeah. So that was sort of the bad old days. Yeah, just more photos of the same. Anyways, yeah, and then as I was showing these other girlfriends my wardrobe and just kind of going, this is a part of me. You should probably know. I wasn't doing it anymore, and I didn't realize that I had desisted. I had been going to Gender Mosaic in Ottawa, the support group. The very last time I showed up, I didn't bother presenting female. I thought, whatever. And I didn't know that was my last time going. And I didn't know I wouldn't be really putting on clothes except for like once every like 8 to 10 years or something. I eventually gave away all these clothes to Salvation Army. Purging is sort of a thing. I thought I was done because I hadn't really, I thought, well, I can't be, back then you had crossdressers and you had transsexuals rather than transgender. And I'd met a couple. They seemed weird to me. I believed all the transphobia like everybody else. I was like, oh, you girls, ladies are just, you must really want it. Oh, well, good for you, but I can't be me. That's going to be too hard. Like, I'm going to be rejected by everybody. And so I kind of retroactively convinced myself that no, this is all I am, except I stopped doing it because it wasn't that satisfying. So, the compromises and stories we tell ourselves just to carry through. So I would eventually desist and give my clothes away. And yet, if I met somebody special again, like I found as I made new friends and got older, I had to kind of come out of the closet again if I wanted people to know. And I would tell them, and they would never ask me about it again. And I would just let it drop. And what a lonely, 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 lonely time. I mean, this was freaking lonely. Oh boy. But I just carried this emptiness with me for decades, I guess. So I made do. I had some happy moments. Met some cool people and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I gave up and I didn't even realize it. So, but here we are. My wife broke open the door for me last early spring, and said I wouldn't have to be alone if I really wanted to do this. Once she realized that I still thought about this every freaking day, she said, "Oh my God, maybe you really need to do this, and if you really need to, you can." And oh boy, my world, the ground underneath me was roiling. I was like, well, am I trans? Because I decided I wasn't. So, and then within about a few days, I was like, oh God, I have to take this chance. Holy shit. So here I am, 47, on the verge of 48. And crazy times. I am so thrilled. But I am so sad that I've waited so long. It's cost me years of potentially being in my own skin. I wouldn't have my family as it is today, possibly, although I've been married 10 years now, with my lovely kids. But, yeah, so much with great pleasure comes almost like an equal measure of sorrow because of knowing what I didn't act on all these years. So what can you do? I was born in the 1972. It was not easy to be trans. It's still not that easy either. So, you go working with the cards you're dealt with, I guess. So, anyways, so that's a little bit of history for you. In other news, I forgot to mention, I submitted the paperwork to change my name legally, and I guess as well the sex designation on my birth certificate. So with any luck, I will have an official Rebecca document with the letter F on the sex marker, and that will be the new me and the foundation to apply for driver's license, health card, all that kind of stuff. And that should be amazing once it happens. So, and making strides, talking to my doctor about surgery stuff. That I can barely believe. I've been reading the literature to prepare, even though it's like a long way off, but just seeing things like being addressed to me, reading about your vagina and your labia and whatever, like my heart is going kaboom. So, Yeah. Things to look forward to, especially the name change in the immediate future. Although I think I'm about like 6 to 7 weeks out. But I hope nothing went wrong and there's no delays. But wow, that's going to be a freaking big one. So, yeah, exciting shit for me. Anywho, this was another video, and thanks for watching. Hope everyone moves into a pandemic-free September-ish or whatever non-fresh outbreak as school resumes. And yeah, awkward bye stage. Goodbye. Okay, lovelies. Bye. I am gonna click that.